Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. My close friend, our chairman, Saudara Zahid, Professor Datuk Tazmi, Dr. Aznan, my old friends that I can see some regular faces in front of me, some of the bankers and fellow academicians, dan salam sejahtera. First and foremost, I would like to thank the IIBF for inviting me to be here to share some of the work that we have carried out in the central bank with respect to Shariah governance framework. Interestingly, this subject or this topic has invited a lot of interest, and I was in Pakistan, I think a few months back, also to share with some of the university and some of the central bankers on what we have carried out in Malaysia. They wish to learn from our experiences, and I'm sure that this framework that we have issued is an extension of the previous guidelines, but I believe there are a lot of room for improvements. I will try to be very brief in my presentation because I prefer to have interactions with the participants on this topic, the background, the rationale, the objective, and of course the components of the Shariah governance framework, and some issues and challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, a well-developed governance structure is important and for the safety and soundness of the Islamic financial institutions. Basically, in the case of the central banker or central bank, the governing structure normally will comprise three core frameworks, namely the governance framework, the legal framework, and the regulatory framework. The legal framework normally sets the legal infrastructure, the legal documentations, and the dispute resolution structures. The regulatory framework sets out the regulations that governs the daily operations of an IFI to ensure that they comply with the legal framework. And thirdly, the governance framework that prescribes the set of processes, the customs, the policies affecting the way or the behavior on how the institution is directed, how the institution is administered and controlled. And within this so-called governance framework is the Shariah governance framework. And from the perspective of the so-called Islamic perspective, we believe that Shariah governance framework is an overarching element in the governance framework. I believe all of you would agree with me that Shariah governance is instrumental in instilling and shaping a sound governance practices. The question that you might like to ask is that why Shariah governance is important? Undoubtedly, in any Islamic financial institution, the most important element or the most overarching principle that encapsulates the operations of an IFI is adherence to Sharia. In our case as regulator, we look at Sharia governance as an important component to assure three aspects. Firstly, to ensure end-to-end Sharia compliance. Secondly, to foster and instill public confidence. And thirdly, to promote financial stability. These three aspects are vital. They are vital and interdependent, given that the effective implementation of Shariah governance will further promote stakeholders' confidence and integrity of the Islamic financial industry, thereby reducing Shariah non-compliance risks, and over the medium and long term would contribute towards maintaining financial stability. Okay. Let me share with you the evolution of Shariah governance in Malaysia. This slide specifically shows the legislative provisions. In the early phase, this during the early days of the Islamic Bank, I think Pak is well aware of this so-called period where the Shariah governance structure was specifically set up at the IFIs, and this structure were supported by the specific provision in the Islamic Bank and Takaful legislation, i.e. the Islamic Banking Act 1983 and the Takaful Act 1984, whereby in the IBA and the Takaful Act there is a provision that the bank has to insert in their M&A for the setting up of a Shariah advisory body. That is the so-called legal requirements. And as a matter of practice, the Shariah committee or the Shariah advisory body of the bank would normally attest annually in the financial reports whether the bank conforms to Shariah principles in its operations. Okay. That was the first 10 years of the legislative so-called provisions. And phase 2 started in 1997. Okay. And during this phase, we saw the establishment of the dedicated Shariah Council at the Central Bank. Now, the second phase actually emanates from the need to harmonize the Shariah interpretations among the Islamic banks and Islamic windows. As you know, when we introduce or when we allow the conventional banks to operate Islamic windows in 1993, what the requirements under the guidelines is that they are required to appoint Shariah advisors. And normally when we have many banks, many Shariah advisors, there are bound to be some Shariah differences on how they look at those on Shariah issues. Arising from the feedbacks from the industry and even from the industry itself, because it was noted that there were some Shariah so-called interpretations, different Shariah interpretations on similar issues. The industry has come to the Central Bank recommending that the bank consider the setting up of a central Shariah Council. What we have done in Central Bank that we make assessment of the so-called request by the industry, and decided that yes, okay, maybe it's timely for us to make this call. And initially, the setting up of the so-called Shariah Council was mainly to so-called govern the Shariah issues or specific issues relating to Islamic window. That is why under the amendment to BAFIA in 1996, they were mentioning in section 1 to 4, whereby all the BAFIA banks that operate Islamic windows are required to observe the decisions of the Shariah Council at the Central Bank. Now, realizing that it is important also to incorporate the legal coverage on the Islamic banks, we make the amendments to CBA in 2004, where we have a specific provision on the role and responsibility of the SAC. And the amendment of the CBA in 2004 recognizes SAC or Shariah Council at the Bank Negara as the highest body in issuing Shariah rulings pertaining to Islamic banking and Takaful. And currently we are in phase 4, where we have elevated further the SAC stature in the new CBA. And if you look at section 53 and I think article section 57, we have a lot of provisions, specific provisions on the appointment and the scope of the SAC. One of the so-called, a few so-called, if I can mention here, is that the appointment of the SAC will be from the King itself, from the Yang Ketua Agong, whereas in the earlier CBA was by the Ministry of Finance. And under the new rulings, the SAC rulings are binding on the IFIs, binding on the court, and binding on the arbitrator. Okay. Okay. This slide is quite similar to the earlier one, but just look at the so-called on the right hand side, where it talks about the some of the guidelines or rules that we have issued. As I mentioned earlier, in phase 1, the establishment of the Shariah Committee at IFIs were under the specific laws, and in phase 2, when we institute the SAC, and the important thing would be on the incorporating this, explain further the duties of the AC industry. Okay, I think I just look at these slides. We talk about some of the prudential guidelines that we should, because the earlier slides talks about the detail of the legal provisions. Under the prudential so-called guidelines for the Islamic banks or type of operators, in 1983 we issued the guidelines on SPTF, whereby in the guidelines there was a requirement for the Islamic windows to appoint Shariah advisors. And the important aspect would be in 2004 when we issued the guidelines on governance of Shariah Committee for the IFIs. These guidelines essentially outline the main duties and responsibilities of the Shariah Committee with respect to Shariah governance, and among the components where they have to appoint minimum 3 members, and the appointment to be approved by Negara, and to operation to appoint any member of a Shariah Committee in another IFI of this industry, and so on. We also prescribe in the guidelines of financial reporting for the licensed IBs that they have to disclose the reports on the committee of the